Hey guys, Nercules here. Just time for a quick rundown of episode 6 from The Last of Us from last night. So, let's get into it. Hey guys, episode opens up last night. I really like that they advance the seasons, right? In the game, like it's playing behind me, you see, there's not a whole lot of shift in terms of the time of year. But I like in the show, we jump to the winter. It just kind of increases the risk and the odds and the stakes that much more. I thought that first scene with that old couple living out in the wilderness was just awesome, right? They were just like the perfect old married couple. And the actor from Dances with Wolves, I thought that was really cool. But I love that sequence where they just kind of have an unspoken language, but they also seem to look at both Joel and Ellie as a couple of kids, right? And they almost don't take them seriously, even though Joel's trying so hard to be scary. It's like he can't frighten them no matter what he does, but then all it takes is a sentence or two about, impending death and from them, and it scares him right away. And obviously we see as they leave the cabin, he has that panic attack, which I thought was a really cool addition that we don't have in the game, to see those physical limitations, but to see that anxiety overrunning him, that something could happen to Ellie. As someone with anxiety and as a dad myself, I can really relate to how that would just stop your heart, and so I thought that was an excellent addition. Then just kind of moving on, I thought it was cool, like the camping scene and things like that. But to be honest, I would have liked maybe a little bit more. Just a rando infected would have been nice. I think having a whole episode without any infected was maybe a little bit of a mistake because that's still a big part of this world we're in. And people made a point of mentioning that infected are still around, and yet we never saw them. But nevertheless, they cross the river of death. They see the dam, and then they end up in Jackson. Now, I thought this was really cool, to film on location, such a beautiful place. I grew up in Colorado, and so went up to Wyoming a lot, and just seeing all that, just absolutely stunning. It's so great to have places that you don't have to do anything to, you just get to show the natural beauty. But I thought it was really neat how, here we have this town that you don't see till the second game, but that is really kind of insulated from what's been going on in the world. And obviously here we find Tommy, and we find out he's married and a dad expecting, and in many ways living the life that Joel wishes he had, that Joel had robbed from him. And there's the scene where he thinks that one lady is his daughter, right? And he has this glimmering moment where he almost forgets that he has lost everything, that he doesn't live in this insulated world, right? And that really culminates in that breakdown moment with Tommy. And I thought that, in the shoe store was just fantastic. Kind of the tension and build with them in the bar and things like that earlier really helped to kind of lay that groundwork well, where there was some awkwardness. And there, finally, in the shoe store, you realize that Joel is grieving still, that it's maybe a little bit of envy. It's frustration at the universe that other people get what he had robbed from him. But at the same time, it's this kind of maybe guilt that he's processing, this recognition that he's starting to feel that way with Ellie, but he doesn't know what to do with it. And it horrifies him, right? And so he asked Tommy to just kind of take this mantle from him. But we see a little later that he kind of feels like that's the wrong way out. He can't do that. I mean, whether he likes it or not, Ellie and Joel are bound, and they have to kind of see this thing through together. Just really beautiful how that all played out. I mean, honestly, I think Pedro Pascal deserves an Emmy for some of those scenes. I mean, it's heart-wrenching. He did a fantastic job. He's done such a good job becoming Joel in this series. It just really, I honestly, going into it, I thought every time I'd see Joel, I'd see the Mandalorian. And now I think it's kind of opposite. When Mandalorian comes back in a few weeks, all I'm going to see is Joel, right? So he just is this role, and he does it so well. And that scene with Tommy was poignant and perfect to that end. So that buildup was just fantastic. And then obviously, we get to kind of that climactic scene, the one that's playing there right behind me. I mean, just so intense. I mean, especially after the scene we just saw with Joel and Tommy, where we see that Joel is honest about that vulnerability. And then he just puts those guards up again when he's there with Ellie. And oh man, it's heart-wrenching, right? It just rips it out of your chest that he wants to be her dad. He wants to be in that role, right? He loves that. That's who Joel is. But at the same time, he's scared of it, and he has to run from it with everything that he is. He hates it, and he doesn't even know what to do in this kind of moment of brutal honesty. Ellie tells him how she feels. What she is most scared of is being without him. And in truth, that's what Joel is most scared of too. But he can't bring himself to even say those words, because that makes that possibility, that reality of life without Ellie, of life where he's lost another daughter, that much more real. So just wonderfully done. Stayed really true to the game, but just, that scene just gets you in the gut every time. But fantastic job. So, then of course, next morning, just kind of knew it was happening, but Joel's there waiting for Ellie. He can't escape the reality that he cares for her, right? He has to look out for her. That's his job. And they begin that journey down to Colorado. Now, I'll say I really loved this segment in the game because I actually grew up in Colorado. And so, and lived there until shortly after I got married. So I just love, anytime a game sets itself in Colorado is always really fun because it's like a known place, but unknown at the same time. And I thought it was really fun in the game, but also in the show. They pick this fictional college, Colorado Eastern University, but interestingly enough, has Rams as a mascot. And so, which anyone from Colorado would know that it's definitely kind of standing in for Colorado State University, which myself, having gone to the University of Colorado, I'm not too sad that Infected have overrun CSU. So, but nevertheless, I loved this scene in the game, as it's kind of playing out behind me. I thought it was really fun. I liked the kind of exploring this kind of old Firefly safe haven and running into some random Infected and some Rotters. You get a little bit of everything in this sequence. The show, I loved it. I loved the monkeys. That felt like a necessary inclusion. But I do feel like this was one area where it would have been nice to get a little bit more depth, right? If they discovered a little bit more about what the Fireflies were up to, a little bit more in terms of just people on this huge campus that's located in a huge town, and yet there's no Infected anywhere. That seemed a little bizarre, especially with all the noise the monkeys would make. So I also thought it would have been a cool opportunity to show like some infected animals, right? That would have been kind of neat. The whole episode had kind of a focus on animals we haven't seen so far, right? Like in Jackson, we saw some sheep. They were talking about raising pigs. We see horses. There was bunnies in the opening scene, and now we're seeing monkeys. So lots of different mammals, and yet none of them infected. So I thought that even though there's not really infected animals in the game, that would have been a way to kind of expand this universe a little bit more and would have made it pretty fun. And so that we know, it's not always just people that are the threats. Like sometimes animals can be infected and what that means for this world too. But nevertheless, I love that sequence. I thought the fight scene with the Marauders at the end could have gone a little bit longer. It seemed like they're just kind of nameless guys who are fighting, and then they, break a bat, stab Joel, and whoa, we're at the end of the episode, right? So a friend of mine and I were talking like it would have been nice if they kind of had some passive dialogue that Joel and Ellie overhear, like in the game. But especially if it was something that helped to set the tone of kind of when society fell apart, right? So late 2000s, I don't know if they're talking about like, their Pokemon card collections or something like that, or they're really excited for like, the launch of the PlayStation 3 or something like that. That would have been a really neat way to kind of give these characters a little bit of personality and then jump into the fight scene. But nevertheless, still the sequence kind of did what it needed to do and carried us to the end of the episode. So, I think now the stakes are high, right? For the first time, we see Joel is really out of commission, and Ellie has to assume that role of protector. And pretty much exactly what Joel has been scared of is coming to fruition, right? He's in a position where he can't protect Ellie. So I'm really curious to see kind of how that plays out. I'm excited for next week, getting a little bit more of that kind of prequel DLC and getting that backstory for Ellie. I think it'll be really cool. I'm really happy that they're including a full episode to do that. But I would love to know what you thought about the episode. Leave it in the comments below. And yeah, let's just kind of, talk through some of this. And I want to know, what were you guys' highs and lows? Is there anything that you wish they had added to the episode or changed? All right, guys, thanks for jamming through episode 6 with me. Can't wait till our episode next week. But until then, high five, subscribe. Subscribe. Oh, yeah. Hercules.